So could you tell us about some of the lessons learned from these leaders?
Angela, do you mind if I share two stories in the book to illustrate?
Please go ahead.
Great, great. So one is about this woman named Vivian Nixon who grew up on Long Island, African American, modest background, smart. Went to a state university in New York, and she always wanted to be an actress, and she got straight A's in theater, and she was thrilled, and she came home, and she showed her folks her grades, and her mother said to her, Vivian, straight A's in theater? Why do you think you can be an actress? You're just not pretty enough. From that moment on, she spiraled down, became involved with the wrong people, got involved in drugs, cleaned up. 3 years later, she was arrested for something she had done when she was on drugs, and she was thrown in jail.
Wow.
When she was in jail, she was transformed because she saw women who were there 15, 20 years, women who had had babies in jail, women who were uneducated, couldn't read and write, and she started to teach them. And she realized, she said, she was so privileged and fortunate. Here she is in jail.
In jail, thinking that she's privileged.
Yeah, there you go. She's in jail 3 years, and she got out, and she went to talk to a woman at an organization called the Community and College Fellowship Organization in the Bronx, New York, and it helps formerly incarcerated women get jobs and college degrees. And the woman said to her, Vivian, what's your ideal job? And she said, honestly, yours. 3 years later, she was director of that organization and remains director today and feels like she's living in a state of grace.
I know, and I would want you to share another story of Andisha, but before doing that, my question to you is, what can we learn from her life?
We can learn a lot from her life. That when you're at the very, very, very bottom and you think your life is over with nothing wonderful in front of you, if you get outside of yourself and you reach out and you see the plight of others and you reach out to help others, it heals you.
That is a fantastic message. As a matter of fact, you know, we all know that women go through the most amount of transitions. And how often do we sit back and think, what am I going to do? And maybe the answer is really we have to get outside of ourselves.
Oh yeah, feel blue, feeling depressed one day. Listen, we all do.
Yeah.
There isn't a day, you know, there isn't anybody among us who doesn't have down days.
Absolutely.
Or down periods. But the thing that can help you the most is getting involved with something that you care about and with people that you care about, because it will help heal you.
And can you tell us about Andisha?
I would love to. Andisha is a woman from Afghanistan who was born in Afghanistan in 1983 during the Russian invasion. She came from a very modest background also. Her father was a police officer, her mother an illiterate mom, housewife of 6 kids. They took the entire family to Iran, and she started her life, her early life, in an Iranian refugee camp without access to sanitation, opportunity, food, transportation. I think the nearest city was 3 hours away, and nobody had any way to get there anyway. And somehow her parents wanted her to have a better opportunity, and they got her alone. She was 8 years old to a refugee camp in Pakistan, where she had the good fortune of being educated by women. And she knew then that at some point in her life, she wanted to make sure that other Afghan children had got an education as well in order to be able to rebuild their country. When she was returning to Afghanistan to meet her family, she was on the border between Afghanistan and Iran waiting for her father, who borrowed a car, to ferry people over back into Afghanistan to safety. She had a 12-year-old brother in the backseat of the car. The Iranian border guard started to shoot wildly in the air, and a bullet shot and killed her brother. She witnessed this. And at that moment, she said to me, she said, Jill, my heart was covered with ashes, but now it's on fire. which is where the title of our book came from. And the reason it's on fire now is she's 28 years old. She's married with a son. She lives in Afghanistan. She is the founder and director of 11 orphanages serving 600 children.
Incredible story, and the story resonates with me on so many levels. One, when I first saw the picture of Andisha, she's Middle Eastern, and right away I thought she must be Persian. But Afghans and Iranians speak Persian. They speak the same language, and I could really understand the kind of displacement that she must have gone through. My parents actually escaped the borders of Iran into Pakistan, and it's a harrowing experience. But what we get from Andisha's story, at least for me, is that sense of resilience. And I do think that all of us along the way, maybe our stories aren't as dramatic as Andisha's, but somewhere along the way we have this kind of wounding, that something happens to us and we see that life isn't perfect, that the world isn't always kind. And then there's a decision for us to make. What are we going to do? How are we going to play a part in it? And you see that she takes that resilience and sense of competence. She really felt that she could do it, a faith in herself to make the world a better place for other people.
But it's interesting. It's a combination of resilience and also, instead of beating one's chest, and listen, people are suffering, and there's plenty of reason people beat their chest, but what happens with these visionary leaders, like Andisha, is she saw herself as having an advantage. And that advantage and that privilege of having gotten an education transformed her.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I need to ensure that others have what I have.
That's incredible.
And I think for many of us, I know, Angela, like you, and we've talked about this before, we too, it's different. I haven't had that kind of suffering in my background, but we all live through challenges. Yeah, I lost a husband, but we all live. Everybody, you live a life. You're faced with challenges. And you can't measure sorrow or pain.
No.
So your own pain is your pain, and you feel it, and it's valid. What these visionaries do, and what you and I were talking about also, is that they want for others what they've had for themselves. You and I have talked about the fact that we have children who have had lots of advantages. Exactly. And what do we care about? We want to make sure that other children, that other women, that other families have the opportunities that ours have had. And so it's a combination of the resilience and, for some people, just a recognition of how lucky some of us are.
A good message to give to all our viewers today.